Sweet surrender as I love, serve, and remember.
Soul, yes. We are one, and at the same time as we are one, we have our individual expressions. Years ago, I was 20 or 21, I started working at a halfway home for juvenile offenders, and I did it for about 2 years. It was an interesting experience because it has nothing to do with the story, it comes back to me. I was 20, but I always looked very young for my age, and to give a sense of how young I used to look before I gained all this weight, I was visiting my mom, trying to figure out what to do with ministry, and we were swimming in her pool, in her club's pool, and she left, and the lifeguard came over to me and said, "You have to get out of the pool now." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because if you're not over 14, you have to leave the pool." And I said, "I'm 35. So when I say I worked with juvenile offenders who are up 18 and I'm 20, there's not much difference in our physicality. And so it was a very, for me, growth experience of to like be an authority for, don't have a clue what I was doing. And these are people who had done serious crime. They had been in juvenile delinquent home, and there was a whole range of people. And the halfway home was a 6-month program to help them hopefully get back into society. That was the intention. And I believed in the program. I thought it was great. I still remember the director. He gave me all sorts of advice when I came, and I wish I followed it more throughout my life because it was really great advice. But I was there for 2 years, so I must have worked with a lot of people, but I can't remember almost any of them except for one. His name he went by the nickname Brother, so his Brother Young. And he was about my height, maybe a little taller, and nothing spectacular about this guy. You don't come in and go, "Oh, he's a leader." It was just, this was his job. He didn't get paid a lot of money, but boy, was he good at it. He came in there, and he cared about those kids so deeply. He was so strict with them, and he never let them. He had very clear, they all did, but he's really like, "No, you've got, make them stick to the program." But he did it with so much love, and they knew it. There's a saying once that I heard, rules without relationship leads to rebellion. Well, he also had a relationship with all of them. So they listened to him. And that's why I remember him. He had such an impact on me to just watch him. I'm like, wow, he is really good at this. And he's good at it not because he's learned some textbook of how to do it, but because he was so clear in his heart how important every one of those boys were. So it was one of those times while I was working there, I was watching the Academy Awards. Last week we had the Academy Awards, which is probably why I'm thinking about it. And I remember Paul Newman was speaking, and I don't know if he was presenting or getting an award, I don't know. I don't remember the context. I just remember he said something, and it just got me going. Because he said, "There's no group on earth that is more generous than actors." And I'm like, okay. Paul Newman grew up like a few blocks away from me, where I grew up. He's had a very nice life. What I saw Brother Young doing every day, nobody knows he exists. He doesn't get any fanfare. He doesn't get fan mail. He's working with a really tough population, and he's there every single day. You can count on him. He's raising his family with a very low income because he's so committed and believes so strongly that every one of those kids matter, and he's giving his full self to them. And he did it so nonchalantly. He wasn't braggart. He was just like, "This is what you do." And he was always giving me advice on how to do things. I loved that man. And I thought, there are so many people like him. There's so many people who are out doing so many things, and nobody will ever know. No one's going to sing their praises. He doesn't have any idea that 40 years later, this white girl that showed up at this thing is going to be talking about him in church, because he impacted her soul so deeply that I'll never forget him. I can't forget him because it hit me so beautifully. So when we talk, I was thinking about that with this idea of soul friendship and what that can look like when our souls are touched. I had another experience. I was at Agape, which is I think most of you know, a community like this one down in Los Angeles, but a mega community. And it's in LA, so it attracts, excuse me, I'm sorry, I have a bug in my throat, so I might cough. Actually, I think I'm going to get my water. Can I? Thank you. So I was at Agape one day, and at the end of the service, I was leaving. It wasn't, because everyone was still sitting, so I was leaving for whatever reason. I was going down the aisle, and leaning against the pole was Dennis Quaid. It's like hanging out. Now, it's in the 90s, so anytime I've seen Dennis Quaid, it's on a big movie screen. And I've seen him in a lot of different movies, like many of us. So I've seen all his different facial expressions. I've seen him cry. I've seen him laugh. I've seen all the emotions. So when I see him, I'm thinking, oh, we're friends. I know this guy. And I start walking to him like, oh, and then I realized my mind kicked in. Oh, I don't know him. And so I veered around him, and I'm like, that was so weird. It was the weirdest experience, because I don't think of myself as being taken in by celebrities, but the moment I saw someone who had been on the big screen, I felt intimacy, but it was false intimacy. It doesn't exist. I don't know a thing about Dennis Quaid. I don't know anything about his soul. I don't feel any personal or unique. It's just because I've seen him a lot. It's familiar. The appearance is familiar. I remember Dana Carvey said once, he said, he said he takes his fame fairly casually. He said, all you have to do is put a grapefruit on a TV show, on a TV show every week, and then people are going to really want to know that grapefruit, because they've seen it. And I just saw Julian in the back. He loves the show Psych. In every episode, they have pineapple, and Julian loves pineapple now, and we get lots of pineapple. But that's the idea of familiarity versus soul. So when we see someone or something or have a lot of familiarity, we say, oh, there's a soul connection there. And there may be, too. But soul is much deeper than that. It's beyond this world of appearances, of something you've seen a lot in your life. And so today we're looking at this soul connection. We're connected with everybody. And one of the things I absolutely love, as I was looking for readings, there was another reading by Ernest Holmes that I liked. There's a book called Holmes Papers, and it's a series of different talks that he's given. And in one of these talks, he was saying how he saw somebody, and he just had this moment of just feeling, I really think about you a lot. I really like you. And he hugged them, and as he was hugging them, he said he had this inside. He was saying, I'm hugging the whole universe when I hug this person. That when we connect like that, it's everybody in the universe. That's how, when we say, he was saying something along the lines of, when we say that God's arms embrace the entire universe, that happens every time we hug someone in recognition. And so our soul friendships, even though there's with some people and not all people, in essence, because we are all one, when we have that connection, we take time to connect, we're including the entire cosmos in it. The entire oneness of the universe happens through that vehicle of that connection that we have with somebody. Soul friendships are not always a lifetime friendship either. In the human world, they might be on the other side, can't speak to that. But in the human world, so you can have, we say, and you've heard this maybe at other spiritual communities or at other organizations, whether you're here for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And I think soul connections in this human world can be that way. You can have, like I had that soul connection with Brother Young, but it was for a reason. It was for my time working there. It was very specific, that purpose, and it's lasted, that connection has lasted, but I have no connection. I've never had a connection with him ever since. I don't even know, I couldn't find him. I did look for him. So we have these soul connections that are for a reason, and we have some for a season, that you're with somebody for a long time. And then for a reason, it separates. There's a separation, whether it's because of transition to the other side or here. So it's for a season. And again, all of these, I think, they are in us forever. But we might experience them in the human realm. And then we have some friendships, soul connections that are in our entire life. Through our life experience, we're going to have continued relationship with these people in our life, these soul friends, because we choose to, not just because they're familiar, but because we choose. We choose, like, this is a relationship, a soul connection that I want to nurture And you might not even know it's a lifetime until you are on your deathbed. Oh yeah, that was a lifetime. So it's also interesting, as I was looking at this idea of soul friendship, is I thought of a time I was at Agape, and at Agape at the time when I worked there, and this was in the 90s, it had an actual physical place, which it doesn't now. So it was a 7-day-a-week center. It was busy all week long, all 7 days. They had a big bookstore within the center, and that was open all 7 days. And the person who ran it was Achille Beckwith, Michael Beckwith's brother. So one day I wandered in there, was talking with him, chatting away, and I don't remember why he's like what we were talking about, but he said, well, I'm here because Michael knows I have his back, and he needs to know there are people here who have his back. And I remember that sort of stopped me in my track, and I have his back against what? Are there people after him? And I just had no clue. I've never heard that phrase before. Why would somebody need someone at the back? I never thought about it myself. So I'm like, why would somebody need your back? Why do we need someone's back? And so I'm just going to table that. That was just sort of something that was going around in my head. What is that? And then like a year or two later, I had a friend who was in classes, and she was getting more and more irritable with me. And then finally, she just, God bless her for her vulnerability and honesty, she said to me, Harriet, the truth is, I'm just jealous. And I said, well, why? And she said, because you're on the inside circle, and I've always wanted to be on the inside circle, and you are. And that stopped me in my tracks, because I had never thought about, when I was on staff there, I'm on the inside circle, and that was perceived that way, so I had to think about that one. I was just trying to get experience, because I never really been involved in church, I just was trying to learn, but now how people were perceiving that, so I had to think about that one, and on some level, I was on the inside track, because it's thousands of people, and as a staff person, you know a lot more than the thousands of people. But I was not on the inside circle with Michael Beckwith. He had his people. He had those people like an Achille, like the people who knew what was going on for him, knew his own personal, human, soulful journey, those people, as we heard in the Anam Cara, who he could share his vulnerabilities with. They had his back because they heard his tenderness. And they were going to say, we have a circle. We don't go around talking about what he shares with us. We have his back. And that's when I'm like, oh, okay. So here's the thing. I use Michael Beckwith as an example because everyone, anyone who's in leadership, you can use them as examples, not as, we say, the exception, but it's true for every one of us. Every one of us have these concentric circles of relationship. And I think it's important when we talk about soul friendship that, I love John O'Donohue's description, but it sounds very singular, where I think we have many soul friendships, and they have different tones and first of all, we have different parts of our life. We have our friend life, we have our work life, we have all these different categories, our community, our athletic life, our spiritual community life. There's all these different worlds in which we are operating in. And those soul friendships, you can have profound soul friendships at work who know nothing about your personal life, but they're soul friends for sure at work. So it's beginning to explore for all of us who our soul friends are. Who are those people? And what got me thinking about this was last week's Academy Awards. And any award show, not just actors, but that's the one we see a lot, is what happens. They share who they're grateful for. So the invitation this week as leaders of light, and I want to explain what I mean by leaders of light, because I keep saying it, but I want to be clear. When I say we're leaders of light, we have this light presence that we all are. This light presence animates every atom and cell of our being. We did not make it happen. We didn't create it. We are the expression of this beautiful, radiant light. To say we're leaders of light means we've suddenly, at one point in our life, become conscious that we are this light, that we are one with it, that we start to recognize, and everybody else is one with. So we're beginning to move into an alignment with this absolute truth beyond appearances. And that's what I mean by leaders of light, is the moment we start waking up to the who we and what we really are, it's already true. You're already a leader. Ernest Holmes said, one in God is a majority. The more we move into that oneness, suddenly just that conscious awareness that you're holding for yourself, that you're holding for the people at your work life, in your family, in your friends, in your spiritual community, the more you are doing that, it's not doing a leader of light like a human role. You might have a human role in that way, but it's a spiritual consciousness role. And you have taken that role on the moment you say, I know that I am one with God. That comes with it an incredible power. And everyone here online as well, you've acclaimed that. That's why you're here. We are one with the infinite universe, the source of all creation, that created all the cosmos, the billions and trillions of stars. You, all of us are one with that light, and that light is inside of us. That light is animating our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, and just that very recognition shifts us from being sort of a recipient or I hate to use the word victim, but sort of a receiver of the world out here and a conscious participant. So when I say that we're all leaders of light, you're leaders of light, not because of a human role, but because of consciousness. So as a leader of light, you didn't get there by yourself. You didn't get to that place of consciousness by yourself. You might have had spiritual experiences, but something cultivated that, something nurtured that. And you are nurturing that. You might take classes, workshops. Many of you have been on this journey for decades. Some of you are newer on the journey, but how we go on this journey is going to be very specific to each of you. So this week I want you to think about, just like, I'm just going to use the Academy Awards again. The Academy Awards is a room full of really talented and gifted people, stars. But it's for, at some point, people get singled out and all the spotlight's on them. So this week, I want you each to imagine that this week the spotlight's on you. You're already a light, but now the spotlight's on you. And you get to imagine in your mind, you could even write it out, you could draw a picture of all the people that you would like to thank. All the people that helped you get to who you are now. Because who you are now is spectacular. Who are those people in your life? And you can look at them from the sense of the people who maybe didn't always know they were supporting you, and yet they were supporting you. The people who are those inner circle people who heard everything and they just stayed, and they got your back, and you know it, and you have their back. You know who those people are, and they could be now, it could be in the past. There's no quantity. This is not about quantity. It's about quality and the recognition. The recognition. For me, for instance, I'm using Brother Young as an example because it was so profound. I've never had a conversation with him since, but he's still very alive in me. What he represents to me is still very much alive. So we have all sorts of people, and that's what we start to realize when we start creating our, in the Academy Awards, they're notorious because people always run out of time. There's so many people to thank, and that's awesome. No one's going to take the cane and pull you off the spotlight. You got the spotlight all week long. You can let it rip, baby. Who are those people that have fully supported you on your journey? And what are the different roles? Honoring that soul connection at different levels. Maybe just a kind word, or you were in a class and there was a great conversation or something that they said, and then maybe in another circle and another circle. And it's not better or worse because it's all one. Every connection, whether it's connection with someone who just passed by briefly or a person who's there constantly, it's all God. And you've connected with the eternal every time we see that. We're connecting with the eternal. So take time this week and give your speech. You can do it out loud, you can do it on the phone, you can write it out, or just in your head. Give your speech of gratitude, especially for those ones who you wouldn't be here today without them. I was also, one of the things I always love when I hear in speeches of gratitude is when someone talks about a teacher that they had from elementary school or high school. I think that's so cool. Like someone who's mentored you or really believed in you. So this isn't just family, it's all sorts of people. Fill your life with memories of all the people of why you are such a conscious being of light today. It's glorious. The other thing that I hear sometimes in speeches is they'll give thanks to people who have inspired them. Now, these are not people that they have humanly had a connection with. They may have never met them. They could be alive and they could be on the other side of the veil. But by recognizing and feeling that connection soulfully with them, something that they've done in your field of interest, something that you're like, that uplifts me, that inspires me. Who are those people in your life? Often those people are, because we don't know them, are on the other side of the veil. It could be family that are on the other side of the veil. Well, you know family, but teachers, spiritual teachers, people who, if you're in arts, science, whatever your field is, I think of Jack in music, that eternal connection. Like, I just look back at Jack, so because it's so easy. Music is so easy. There's so many musicians that he is so inspired by. He's never going to meet them, or he might meet them on the other side of the veil, but he's not going to meet them in this human world. But man, do they animate his inner world, right? Does that make sense? They animate your inner world. Who are those people that animate your inner world? They are your soul friends. Those are people to thank too. And there's also a reason, a season, or a lifetime. To give it an example of that, on Thursday night we were talking about books around death, and I had read a book with Treya Wilbur, and that was so profound. And I remember, she touched my soul, brought me to my knees. That was a book that got me. She got me in my soul, and I've never met her. And the book is her transitioning to the other side of her 5-year journey to so I'm never going to meet her. I'm not going to have any connection with her. And yet, that connection that I felt with her soul through her words in the book, it has a lot of, it's her, Ken Wilber's words, but also her own words from all her journals, stays with me, and it impacted how I live my life. I made changes because of those words. And then about 10 years later, I was thinking about something, and suddenly she was there and giving me very clear guidance. Like, nope, don't do that. And it was so weird. I'm like, wow, why did she? And I got it. But here's this person. It was just for a reason. She was for my life for a reason. She changed certain things. She came. She showed up at a reason. It's not a continual connection. I don't continually feel connected to Treya Wilbur. But that is a soul connection that had a reason, and it was real, and it's eternal. There's an eternality to it, but it was only for a reason. Season, I talk a lot about Ramana Maharshi, had a really big impact on me, read his book, had these different spiritual experiences, understood various things differently, had an impact on me for a season, but he's not my long-term soul friend, but he for sure has had a huge impact in my soul through his writing for a period of time where I was really working hard with it. And then I have my teachers, Jesus, Paramahansa Yogananda, and Shunryu Suzuki, for sure, lifetime soulmates. I have no question about that, eternal soulmates. I've never met them personally in the human flesh, but I know that I know. And of course, family is always, well, shouldn't say of course, where people are in their soul friendships with their family. So think about those people. Think about the people that you can thank, that you have a relationship with, that you are growing with. And I haven't said much about family, but for sure, at least for me, I'm very clear in my family's, my soul friendships, and that's for my life, and I'm forever grateful. Doesn't mean there aren't struggles. Soul friendships doesn't mean you don't have struggles, but you know, and you know that you know. So who your people are that you are in communication with, their impact on your life and your impact maybe on the inside circle it's a two-way street. You're impacting each other's lives. And then who are those beings that have inspired you, that animate your inner soul? And then the last thing that often we hear at the Academy Awards, I actually didn't watch the Academy Awards this last week, this month, but I've just been thinking about it, is often they will give a shout out to people who are just beginning the journey. Oh, for those of you who are just starting this acting journey or whatever, musicals or music or sports, don't give up. And they say something. They say something encouraging. Because what I hear, the reason why I love it is it's a feeling of connection. You're part of the team. Just because you're new doesn't mean you're not part of the team. And so in your soul world, think about maybe someone who's brand new, who's maybe just in the last 6 months realized that they are one with the entire universe. Maybe someone who just realized, oh my gosh, the light of the divine is alive and awake as me. Maybe just recently, and you might not even know who they are, but imagine there might be people in the last 6 months, I'm sure there are millions, who've had this awakening. What would you tell them? Again, we're not limited by a 3-minute Academy Award speech. You got all week. What would be the words of wisdom and encouragement that you would give to those who are joining this incredible journey, spiritual journey? I'd be so curious, but I won't ask you now. But isn't that so wonderful? Because when we do that, we're also owning our own leadership of light. I have something to offer. That's what you're saying. I'm thinking about something to encourage you is because I have something to offer. Every one of you has things to offer someone who's new to the path. And they're going to be grateful for the words of wisdom. And they're going to be grateful for those of you who've been on the path for a long time. And they're going to be very grateful for the people who are just new onto the path, maybe a year ahead of them. Sometimes, the class just before you, that's actually sometimes more relevant. So no matter where you are on the journey, you can help and be of service to someone else on this beautiful journey of light. And all of this is part of our soul friendship. Because none of us are on the journey alone. We never have been, and we never will be. And we hear that there's this epidemic of loneliness. And none of us are alone. And sometimes we don't know that because we don't stop. We can forget of how many people have loved us and been connected with us, that we've been connected to and they've been connected to us all along our journey in all these different avenues and different ways, that every one of us has this incredibly rich, full, spiritual community that we've been in our entire life, and now we have the eyes to start seeing it. Now we have the voice to start giving thanks for it. We don't have to wait till someone gives us an award or acknowledges us. We're doing it on our own. We're acknowledging the fullness of our extraordinary spiritual life today, this week. And so I just want to end with just a quick thought, very short, brief thought that I just got this morning. Whenever someone gets up to win an Academy Award, what do they call it? They call it an acceptance speech, because they have to get up and accept that they are brilliant lights. May all of you accept you are a brilliant light. Give your acceptance speech. Your acceptance speech. Accept who you already are as a brilliant light of God, and the entire cosmos is celebrating with you. Let's pray. The entire cosmos is celebrating with all of us right here and right now. That anywhere in this universe where God is realized, where this divine infinite love intelligence is realized, it is seen, it is accepted. The glory of the living presence is alive and awake in ways we can't even begin to imagine. We are suddenly opening ourselves up to the fireworks of energy, of light, of joy, of wisdom, of beauty, of harmony, of abundance, of clarity, of divine right order, of divine right action. There is nothing outside of the good of this beautiful, radiant universe when we say yes, yes, yes to who we really are, and we open our hearts and we accept without reservation, without making ourselves smaller. We just say yes, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you to all the beautiful beings who have supported you every step of the way, that are those seen and those unseen, those in the past, those in the present, and even those yet to come. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We live with our heart and our body and our mind and our soul and our entire life overflowing in the infinite gratitude that each and every one of us is an eternal star of creation. essential to the beauty and the harmony of this heaven on earth that is us. We breathe that in. We celebrate it inwardly. We celebrate it outwardly as we say, thank you, God. We release it. We release it. We release it in gratitude and let it be as we say together, and so it is. Amen.
I walk in God in all I do. I walk in God in all that I say.